Excuse us.
Pardon me, ma'am.
Sorry.
Move it, asshole.
Oh, thank God, we got good seats.
Damn right we did. What's up? We got the drinks.
We got the popcorn.
And the candy.
I think we're ready, man.
Hey guys, sorry I'm late. The bathroom here is nuts.
Oh my God, you made it. Yay.
It's about time, Nathan. Damn.
Shh, the movie's starting.
Hey there, this is Damn Dirty Nathan Simmons.
This is Damn Dirty Dustin Goes to Hollywood, and you're listening to the Silver Linings Playlist, a podcast that tries to find the silver lining in some of cinema's bleakest endings. And
this is like the granddaddy of bleak endings.
Oh man, this is like one of the few that started it all.
Yeah, I feel like you're. Yeah, absolutely.
You'll notice, listener, too, if you're a regular one, that you're missing a voice here on the podcast, and that is, of course, Mally Moore, who is not joining us this week. Potentially, he may join in.
Yeah.
He let us know a little while ago that his power went out.
Yeah, his power went out, and it was like, I don't know. There's something kind of like incredible about
this movie.
How I hope this movie, and he's just like been sent back to the Stone Age.
Right, that's what I was thinking too.
He's like, it's too hot.
He's been captured by the Apes, and now he can't use technology. So,
yeah, you maniacs!
You blew up the transformer for my house's electricity. But yeah, Mally won't be joining us. Maybe. I mean, if his power comes back on between now and the end of the episode, he may slide in. So we'll see. But in the meantime, that is now 2 of 100+ episodes he hasn't made it to. So not bad. He's still got a pretty good.
Not bad. No, good. Good.
Good RBI.
That's pretty good odds. Yeah.
But if you are new to the show, first of all, thank you for stumbling onto our show.
For sure.
We're a podcast that likes to watch movies such as the OG Planet of the Apes, where by the time the credits roll around, things do not look great.
No.
Either for our characters or maybe for you yourself as an audience member. Maybe you get a little more active in your viewing and you don't feel too great because the ending didn't wrap up nice and neat. Sometimes movies don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we come in as sort of script doctors. Well, maybe not necessarily script doctors, but more optimists in how we view the endings.
Yeah.
Which is, Nathan, I don't want to speak for you, but I can say, at least for me and Mally, we are the exact opposite. We are extreme pessimists.
Oh yeah, for sure. I tend to err on the side of like, why would it be good?
Yeah. Why would anything be anything? And that reminds me, like when we did Seven, the movie Seven.
Yeah.
I think I had my most bleakest silver lining ever.
Yeah.
Was just like, everyone's going to die. Who cares? Like, that's
right. Yeah.
Most movies
right.
that end like this one, I kind of feel the same way. I'm like, everyone's going to die anyway. Like, so.
Sure.
But I would say the silver lining is kind of the weakest part of our show. Like, in all honesty, it's more just a niche, like a jumping off point for us to discuss whatever, you know?
Yeah, but sometimes it is nice to kind of unpack, like, what that means to us, like, what we took from a particular ending. And I think sometimes, like, the silver lining can kind of inform how we dealt with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it certainly puts the movie, in hindsight, in a different light. A lot of the times,
and sometimes it's way harder. Like sometimes, especially with like the more like obtuse endings.
Mm-hmm.
This one, it's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like the silver lining is usually the last part of my notes, and oftentimes I'll forget about it until like right before we record.
Right.
But yeah, no, this one's difficult, very difficult. I say. The one I have, I'll go ahead and be upfront, it's kind of shoddy.
Okay.
But we'll see when we get there. So, Planet of the Apes, 1968. I thought it was only appropriate we did this movie this week because this is the 20th anniversary of the remake.
Oh,
the
right.
Tim Burton remake.
Yikes.
And also, it's the 10-year anniversary since Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh.
So, yeah, we're hitting 2 different decades here.
That?
And of course, it's been like 60 years almost since the original.
Sure, yeah.
Which is insane to say out loud. Like,
this was what, 1969 or 68?
1968.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's still... I'll go ahead and give kind of my real quick summary. It's still a good movie.
Yeah.
It still has a lot of good into it.
Yeah.
But, man, this movie has got a lot of problems that...
Yeah.
Through a 2021 lens... makes it really problematic.
Oh, sure. There's some wonky stuff for sure. It's one of those, it's so weird because it feels like so much of this movie is like fighting against itself.
Yeah.
Like there's like the original novel is like super, like hard sci-fi, but also it goes into some interesting stuff about like genetic memory and how people can be like hypnotized to remember like past lives, and it's much more of a like a political satire, and this one has some of those elements, but it also still wants to be like a high-flying 1960s adventure movie. So it like you get these like protracted courtroom scene, but you also have like, oh no, we're in the desert and then some rocks fell. Like, you know what I mean?
It wants to be a serial from like the 20s and 30s and like that kind of stuff, but it also wants to be this sci-fi adventure movie. And
for sure,
because it's trying to do both of those things, and like you said, fighting with itself, it gets in its own way, and it doesn't hit either of those marks fully. Like,
it's unquestionably a better movie than the remake, which you've covered on this show, right?
Episode 2 of the show. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it is the most baffling ending for a Hollywood picture, I think, maybe ever.
maybe. It's certainly up there. But no, with that one really wants to be the sci-fi adventure movie.
For sure.
This one plays it half and half and ultimately doesn't succeed on either end. That being said, it is still a classic, and like
absolutely, and for good reason.
Yeah.
Like you can tell, like you can see the Rod Serling of it all too, because he did like a draft of the screenplay, and you're like you can see where, oh, this is like for sure like feels like Rod Serling, Richard Matheson kind of telling a political religious allegory, and then someone else coming by and being like, well, but we gotta have chicks in this.
Oh God, dude. The 1960s of it all is so fucking apparent. Like,
for sure.
Many of my notes are just Charlton Heston's a piece of shit.
No kidding. So I feel like I don't know if I'm jumping the gun or not, but like I remember watching this as a kid, and like I loved this movie. I had to have been like 8 or 9, and there was like Turner Classic Movies was running a marathon. I watched this and Beneath the Planet of the Apes like back to back. And by the way, Beneath the Planet of the Apes has a way more bleak ending, but it's not nearly as good of a movie.
I was going to ask, because I haven't ventured into those Conquest and Beneath and all that. Are they worth it?
Not really. I mean, the thing that like hits me immediately about this movie is that it feels like an actual movie. The other ones have like the production values of a television series or like a TV movie. That's what I was
worried about. And also, I mean, like, what story could you possibly tell that's interesting? Because the whole point of this movie that's interesting is what planet are these astronauts on?
Right.
And then it turns into, like you said, like almost the victors rewrite history, and it's like, what does that do to a society? But we don't really get much of that. And then, of course, the twist that he's on Earth all along, it's like, oh, that's super interesting. Charlton Heston, I'm guessing, doesn't return for any of the sequels.
He's in the second one for a very little amount of time. He said, do you want me to just spoil the second one for you?
Go ahead.
He told the producers, I'll come back, but you have to let me choose how it ends. I don't want to be in more than like 10% of the movie. So most of the movie follows another astronaut arriving and trying to find Taylor, and Cornelius and
Zira.
How
does that work?
Right.
Another astronaut arriving?
Yeah, he found the same wormhole, apparently.
Okay.
Which is not what that was in the first movie. It wasn't a wormhole. It was time dilation.
That's a huge question I have about this movie and like how it works.
Yeah.
Which I guess we'll get into. But okay, so he comes through a wormhole?
That's how they explain it in the second one, yeah.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. So the second one, it's another astronaut leaving Earth, going through a wormhole, coming back and not realizing he's on Earth.
Right, but also here's the thing. So the astronauts, the way that so this gets into like time dilation theory, where like the further out in space you get, like the weird like time moves differently, and
we got that in Interstellar and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right, and so he says, like Taylor says, we've been gone for a week, but it's been 700 years on Earth.
Yeah,
and so why would they send a search party for him immediately? You know what I mean? Like, oh, we haven't heard from him. Like, it's only been a week for him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's like another guy from 1976 who's like, I gotta go save Taylor. So
it's essentially the same movie.
More or less, except then they meet, you know, there's all the talk about mutants in this one. They actually meet like a cult of mutants under the earth who worship a doomsday weapon that they found.
Okay.
And the movie ends with Taylor getting shot and detonating the doomsday weapon on purpose and blowing up the planet.
So it's Megaton, basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So he decides.
Wait, he blows up Earth?
Yeah. The closing narration of Beneath the Planet of the Apes is literally like the third planet from the sun has suddenly gone quiet or something like that. Like it's gone. Like he destroys the world.
Wait, so how are there more movies?
Part 3 is okay.
First of all, before you get into 3, I'm sorry, listener. We'll get back to Planet of the Apes, but this is blowing my mind. So please tell me about Conquest and all the other ones, because holy shit.
So 3 reveals that Cornelius and Zira got in an escape pod and also fell into a wormhole and went back in time before the world exploded. So that movie takes place in the 70s and they become celebrities on Earth, and it's more of like a weird comedy.
Okay. And then wait, are Cornelius and Dr. Zira, are they in too?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Same actors?
Yes.
Wow.
Actually, you know what? I think the only actor that's I think Cornelius is played by someone else in the second one, which is like a major misstep.
Doesn't really matter who plays him.
Oh, I mean, Roddy McDowall rules.
Yeah.
But they become like celebrities in the 70s, and then the U.S. government gets freaked out by the apes because they keep talking about how they're going to overthrow man one day, and so Cornelius and Zira
to the apocalypse, like
basically.
Okay.
And then they get killed. And their child is found by this guy played by Ricardo Montalban, who raises him.
Oh my god.
And the fourth movie, now there's just domesticated apes everywhere, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, and their son Caesar leads an uprising, and then Battle of the Planet of the Apes is about how Caesar and the humans try to find an understanding during a giant war, and it's the cheapest fucking movie you've ever seen in your life. So
it's kind of like that circus trilogy. It kind of weaves its way into that.
The new Matt Reeves ones basically are a remake of the last 2 Planet of the Apes movies and do that story way better.
Dude, so how good is that Matt Reeves trilogy? Jesus Christ.
They're great. I mean, Rise is all right.
Rise is all right, but I'll give it a pass just because of what came after. It's kind of like, for me, it's like, I can appreciate how Batman Begins is a good movie, but the other 2 are so much more rewarding. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Actually, Begins is my favorite of the trilogy.
I get it. It's way more of a traditional Batman movie. I totally get why people like that one a lot.
But it is a springboard for what Nolan really wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how those Apes movies feel like. But yeah, the original series is like this weird sprawling soap opera that like each one was cheaper than the last and made less money than the last, but they were coming out like a year apart from each other. Like they were like the Friday the 13th of the 70s.
That's so crazy. Because like, I guess there could be something there with like the sequels, but from what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound like they're like it's paper thin kind of premises.
Yeah, and they're constantly like retconning stuff to make it work. Like, and when Cornelius and Zira arrive on Earth in the third one, now they're telling the story of how the first ape rose up against its human masters, even though this movie establishes that they never knew that was true. Yeah,
or that they even believe it by the end of that movie.
Right, exactly. So it's a very flawed series that like tried its best to keep going.
There's only one book, right?
Right, yeah. Okay. And it's very different from this movie, but I think this movie makes itself work as a as an adaptation just by like retaining like the spirit of the book, but also doing very much its own thing.
Yeah, I've got a little note when we get towards the trivia section about the book.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. But okay, so back to Planet of the Apes, 1968. Yeah. When was the first time you saw it? Did it hold up on this rewatch? How do you feel about it?
Oh, it mostly held up on this rewatch. I feel like it was. I watched it when I was a kid for the first time, like I was like 8 or 9, and I didn't know the twist. It's so incredible that wasn't spoiled for me. Like I still can't believe that
Were you able to comprehend that twist at a young age? Okay.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, and I think I remember looking at my dad and being like, so he's in the future. And my dad was like, yes, son. Yes, he is. Like, so proud of me. Or like,
that's the twist. He's in the future.
Yeah. He went too far. It blew my mind. And I revisited it, I think, in high school once, and probably haven't seen it in over at least 15 years. But I was surprised at how well it held up for me. Although I will say, when I was younger, I don't think I didn't pick up on the nihilism, especially from Taylor. Like, there's that scene early on where he's like takes delight in telling Landon, like, oh, everyone you know has been dead for 2,000 years. And then he laughs at him, like making a little grave.
Yeah, dude, I pulled that clip because what the fuck?
It's so wild.
Well, is it a grave? I thought it was more like...
Or like a little memorial.
Well, like how they did the moon landing. Like they put the flag in the moon, like we claim this planet. That's how I took it.
That worked. Okay, I get that now.
But a grave also would make sense because it's, the ship and then Stewart as well. So
I also didn't remember like what the goal of the mission was, but I guess they were gonna gangbang Stewart. Like like there's
that is a bleak ending.
That is there's that scene. He tells Nova that halfway through the movie. I wrote the line down because it's insane. He goes, I didn't tell you about Stewart. She was to be the new Eve with our hot and eager help, of course.
Oh, I missed that too. All I remember him saying is like, something. I think he said something like, "Oh, Stewart was way prettier than you," or something like that.
Oh, he does that too. He negs this girl the whole time. He keeps telling her like, if there were there's so many lines of dialogue where he says, if there were any other women, I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Like he not even just to her. He says it to Zaius at one point too. He's like, oh, you found a mate. And he goes like, it's easy on this planet or something like that. There's not a lot of options.
Dude, there was, like I said, there's so many times I was like, Jesus Christ, dude, how much of a piece of shit can you be?
Yeah.
You're the hero of this movie. And
we're supposed to get the idea that he just hated humanity. Like he wanted to like leave Earth and find something better. But I'm just like, man, like you need your own planet. Like you
need an ego and a planet of you.
Right.
No, I couldn't tell if he's doing a caricature of himself, of like the 1960s, like toxic masculinity, slapping women on the ass kind of stuff, or if that's just genuinely like, because I'm sure Charlton Heston had some input on like the actual script more than just the ending. I'm sure he's like, no, we're gonna put this attractive woman in here, and he's gonna be with her. Like you can feel his grimy fingerprints all over it.
And yeah, exactly. That's the thing is like, I think the character is written to be a take on
a version of himself, right?
Right. So here, like, it's so weird. Like the first lines of the movie are him admonishing mankind for making war with each other. Charlton Heston was like the poster boy for gun violence. Yeah. Like it was like the face of the NRA. Like it's so funny to me.
Every time someone gets within his grip, he's grabbing them and like trying to choke them out or shake them.
Right. Even if he just wants to like use a piece of paper, he's like strangling somebody.
Yeah. No, I feel like this is Charlton Heston being like the Schwarzenegger or the Stallone of his day, and like this movie, I can't look bad at all ever, even for a moment, really.
Right.
And I've got to get the girl. I've got to get the gun. I I will say he does give himself a little bit of humility to be allowed to be like captured multiple times and like be stripped of his clothing, which is good. But also like, yeah, I just feel like this is Heston being like, this is me on screen. Yeah. Like you could just call this character, forget Taylor. This is Charlton Heston.
And that brings me to, I think, a very pressing question. Is he good in this?
Oh man. At times.
Okay.
There's moments where he's good. Other times it's like,
yeah,
you can tell. Maybe it's just because of the era this movie was made, that like there's a lot more
presentational acting in the 60s and 70s.
It still feels like they're doing that stage acting. But the crazy thing is, this movie comes out the same year as 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Right.
And this movie looks like shit in comparison to that movie. Like, not even just the space stuff, but just like the acting, the cinematography. Like, that movie feels a lot more modern than this one. This one, it still feels like we're on a soundstage, and like even when he's like running through when he escapes and he's running through all the different buildings and stuff, it still feels like it doesn't feel like it's a set. It doesn't feel like another world. You know what I mean?
They do some really cool stuff with miniatures at some points in the movie, but it's also like, I mean, one, it's not entirely fair to put anybody up against Kubrick.
But I mean, just in terms of the production value, like,
sure. Oh yeah, and this is gonna blow your mind. This is the best looking of the original.
Oh,
movies.
I believe it.
Like,
I believe it.
There's at least some interesting. It's weird because the chase scenes are shot really well. I think like there's some really fun like shaky cam, which is crazy for the 70s. The stunt work's great.
Like, it looked rough. Like a lot when they're going through that field at the beginning, and there's all the people, and there's like people jumping off of cliffs and shit. I don't think that's fake.
No,
I think they're literally jumping off 20, 30 foot cliffs into dirt.
Yeah, and like the scenes where the apes get on all fours and are chasing him up the Coliseum steps are really cool. But, like, then the dialogue scenes, I think, are shot so flat. Like, there's nothing happening.
Yeah. We haven't even really gotten into the movie yet, but, like...
go ahead, yeah.
Well, what I was going to say is that I remember... I'm so jealous of the people that got to see movies like this, like Empire and all that, before knowing the twist.
Oh,
like,
sure.
I'm a poster child of early 2000s internet culture, like... I grew up when I was like 8 or 9 being able to get on the internet, and around like 15, 16 years old when like dial-up was gone and we're on cable, high speed, right?
Yeah.
That I was able to watch everything, and by that point I'd already known the twist. Oh, he's on Earth the whole time. You know, Darth Vader is Luke's father, all that good stuff. I never got to enjoy that, really. So I remember watching this. I believe I saw the Tim Burton one first.
Oh man!
Because it played on like FX and TNT
it was
all
on
the fucking
FX
time.
All the time. Yeah.
All the time. So I remember seeing that one, and I was like, well, I got to watch the original. And I remember watching it and liking it, but I don't think I fully grasped at least half the movie, like the middle of it, where they're having the whole courtroom scenes. And you know, I don't think I really got that part of it. And then, it's funny you're recapping these sequels to me. I think I may have seen them, because I do recall one day sitting down and being like, I'm going to watch all of these in a day.
Yeah.
But it must have been such a blur, because some of that does sound familiar, but I can't recall any of it. So I don't know. You make a great case for me putting on the sequel tonight, because it sounds
weird.
Worth it.
It's a weird time, and I think you'll be shocked, like, immediately how much less money they're spending on it.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, this movie only had a budget of $5.8 million.
Right.
Which is a decent amount of money back then, but, like, that's nothing. Like, for a sci-fi movie.
Right, for sure. But this was also during a time period where, like, sci-fi was considered, like, the ghetto of filmmaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was, like, lesser than... It was, like... Even horror, I think, was more widely regarded.
Yeah, for sure.
Back then, like, sci-fi was, like, nerd shit. Like, not Star Wars nerd shit when it became popular. It was, like, you had, like, the pulp magazines and everything, men in suits playing alien robots and shit. Like, it was not looked as prestigious filmmaking. And maybe that's why they tried to make this movie more political and, like, really have a message about history and colonialism and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
they don't ever go all the way with it, so it makes it fall flat. And maybe that's because it's hard to market a movie like that, so they have to have this kind of science adventure, you know, guy on a horse with a gun kind of westerny feel to it.
Right.
But yeah. Speaking of which, drink of the episode before we get into the details.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this is the newest segment to the show.
Right.
This one for me is obvious. This is what I like to call a dad movie.
Sure.
This is, and a little peek behind the curtains there, listener. We're recording this on Father's Day.
Right.
And I just watched this movie. I rewatched it just a little while ago. It was lovely because I got a charcuterie board.
Yeah.
I had some fantastic cured meat and cheeses, and I put the movie on, and I had bourbon. Because I think
spent the day with bourbon and Chuck Heston.
Exactly. Like, you can't think Charlton Heston and not think just like the rankest fucking bourbon. Like,
yeah,
no rocks, just in a glass.
I think the only more dad thing you could have done is like maybe drink whiskey and watch a John Wayne picture or something.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. This falls in that dad category. It's this,
for sure.
It's a John Wayne movie. It's Clint Eastwood, like Dirty Harry. This is a dad movie. So like this was a nice, cozy watch. You know. Yeah. You get your bourbon, get your charcuterie board, sit up on the couch with a blanket, and you know, it was a good watch. It was a fun time.
That sounds great. That sounds like a perfect day.
It was a good Father's Day. I'll say that.
Hell yeah, man. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you. Now, before we get into the trailer, we've already talked about some of it, but let's get into some of the details surrounding the original 1968 Planet of the Apes. So, I was really eager, and I didn't have a chance to. I wanted to read Ebert's original review of this movie because I'm sure it's interesting. But that being said, I always pull my cast list like in order from his reviews. Mm-hmm. Charlton Heston is billed third on his review list.
Interesting.
It's Roddy McDowell's number 1.
Oh, fantastic.
Maurice Evans is number 2. Sure. Charlton Heston, then Linda Harrison, and then Kim Hunter.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Right? Huh. He does that sometimes. But anyways, the director is Franklin J. Schaffner. Mm-hmm. We mentioned the budget was $5.8 million. It managed to gross a pretty substantial amount, $32.6 million worldwide. Nice. That's a pretty good return on investment. Yeah. 86% currently on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's fair.
And it won an honorary Oscar for John Chambers for the makeup, and was nominated for 2 other Oscars for Best Costume Design for Morton Hack and Best Original Score for Jerry Goldsmith. This score is good at times and also batshit fucking crazy at times.
There's the one chase scene. I think it's the one through the town square, and it's like constant. It's like there's 4 orchestras arguing with each other.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the one where I think it's when they get their clothes stolen. And they're like trying, or maybe it's right before that when they're trying to get to the waterfall, and it's got some weird fucking sound effect. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
Like it was like background music for the Jetsons or some shit.
Yes, it was very weird, and it definitely stood out and took me out of the scene. But
there was some weird, but there's some stuff that's like really kind of like all the stuff on. Towards the end when they're on horseback and the shootout sounds great. Yeah. It's got that kind of classic Western action sound to it. But yeah, there's some stuff where I'm like, experimental doesn't have to mean no melody.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be weird for weird's sake. You know?
Right. It's very strange.
I do like the restraint to not put any music in during the ending. During the very last few minutes. Like,
oh my God.
So impactful. Yeah. Even knowing it's coming, it's still so fucking dark.
I forgot that the credits start rolling just over the sound of the waves crashing.
Yeah, just immediately. Like,
oh my
the
God.
only way it could have been more impactful is instead of fading to black, it was just a cut to black.
Yeah.
But like, even then, like...
and then you hear a gunshot.
You hear 2. Or actually 3. He's got to kill that horse.
Yeah, for sure. I can't leave that horse out there.
All right. Let's watch this trailer. Now, I'm excited because before we started recording, I'd only watched a little bit of this trailer.
Yeah.
Just to test the sound and everything. It's bananas crazy.
Oh, I can't wait. I've never seen this.
It is like chugging a glass of 60s marketing.
Oh, so, good.
Just, you'll enjoy it. There's wipes, there's weird sound choices, awkward cuts, all that good stuff. So, without any further ado, we'll get to watch this, but listener, you'll be able to hear the trailer for the original 1968 Planet of the Apes.
Can't help thinking that somewhere in the universe there has to be something better than man.
Got that old school voiceover.
The words are Charlton Heston's.
The words are Charlton Heston's.
The words that we've landed. The world he finds out in the galaxy will challenge every idea you've ever had of civilization. A planet where man is the lowest order of living things.
That's a cool shot.
And the superior beings
that first shot of the apes is like something out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
They build the cities.
They built a city.
Make the laws.
Listen to the score.
Guns,
doop, 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 doop.
and control the guns that hunt a race of lowly, terrified humans who run wild.
Dude, these
in the
nets
jungle,
are so ineffective.
are caged in the prisons and stuffed in the museums.
Look at that wipe.
20th
I
Century
can't
Fox
believe they put that
transforms
shot in the
motion
trailer.
picture screen into Planet of the Apes.
By the way, we're only like a third of the way through this trailer.
Pierre Boulle's finest novel since Bridge on the River Kwai.
It was a world gone insane, an upside-down civilization that could not be real. Yes, a world of madness and terror.
Man has no understanding. He can be taught a few simple tricks.
What is...
Nothing more.
Look, there's too many reveals in this trailer.
Wow.
Cut up his brain, you bloody babble.
They showed you that his 2 other astronaut buddies are dead already.
It's a man! It's a
Right? I think that's awesome.
But it did not end here. It ended in an episode so unpredictable, so shocking, it made the horror which preceded it seem calm and gentle as a summer's night. A great many people worked long and hard.
Yeah, there's like
to answer the
BTS
question
him
of
talking
what a
right into the
civilization would
camera
be
about
like
this
where
movie.
the evolutionary process has been reversed, and apes were the superior species. Hundreds of technicians and the largest number of makeup artists ever assembled assisted the producers, the writers.
We're still
the
got like
director,
another minute to go on this
cast.
trailer.
Dr. Cornelius, Roddy McDowall.
Fuck yeah.
Dr. Zilla is played by Kim Hunter. Dr. Zayas is portrayed by Maurice Evans. And Nova by Linda Harrison.
Got all these other people that ain't makeups, and then there's just her looking grimy.
For final disposition. You realize what that means?
No.
Emasculation to begin with.
Yeah, lots of dicks getting cut off in this movie, or at least threats of it.
Cut your balls off.
Dude, this is again...
Eventually,
I'm just not realizing that that's the 3rd time
Planet of the Apes.
this season,
Beyond
and we're only
your
4
wildest
episodes
dreams.
in.
That someone's had either genital trauma or has been threatened with it.
Yes! What the fuck? Other than pie, every other
Yeah.
episode this season.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a conscious effort that we're not, like, fully acknowledging. Like, we all had a hive mind.
Now I wish I could see a cut of Casino Royale where Le Chiffre is replaced by Dr. Zayas.
Or, dude, what about a remake of this movie with Daniel Craig in the lead role?
Oh, man.
Right?
That'd be wild.
Or Liam
Yeah.
Neeson, or not Liam Neeson, was Leslie Nielsen
Leslie Nielsen.
and O.J.
Yes.
Simpson. See past episode Age of Heart for that. Anyway.
I love that, like, Heston's, like, showing people, like, here's the actors underneath the makeup. But they have to, he felt like he had to show Linda Harrison, like, a picture of her next to herself.
That's
where
what I'm
she's
saying.
playing a human.
You could see, here's just her, but looking dirtier.
Yeah.
No, I love that. It's almost like they're like, look, this movie's not going to sell. We got to get them, like, begging. Like, look, there's hundreds of makeup artists worked on this movie. Please come see it.
Older trailers are so bizarre. I remember when you guys played the trailer for On Her Majesty's Secret Service on here, and it's like 7 minutes long,
It's
and it's
so
just
long.
the narrator saying over and over again, like, this Bond is different.
Yeah.
It'll punch you in the head. Like,
Yeah. I don't know. The art of trailer making didn't really come around until like the 90s. Really,
there's a truly unhinged trailer for the Guys and Dolls adaptation from MGM.
Ooh,
it's the one that stars Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra.
Yeah,
it starts with Ed Sullivan like talking to his audience and saying like, there's a new film coming out made out of guys and dolls. And then the rest of the trailer is like people walking around the MGM backlot talking about like, oh, have you heard they're making a movie out of guys and dolls? Yeah.
That's like Hitchcock would do that. He would sit in on his like trailers and like talk directly.
So bizarre. It was on the DVD. I don't know if it's on YouTube, but it's truly strange. But the like there's a trailer for like the original trailer for A Miracle on 34th Street doesn't ever mention Santa Claus or Christmas.
That's bizarre. Yeah, old trailers are a thing of the past, man. They're fascinating.
Yeah. So strange. That trailer was incredible.
Yeah.
I love the shots. There's shots of him basically doing a TikTok duo with himself.
The Madhouse thing? I think it's kind of brilliant.
It's pretty great. I want the club remix of It's a Madhouse.
Anyway, why don't we've already kind of discussed a lot of stuff, but let's actually discuss the film itself. So,
sure.
Where do we want to start? Because, I always ask, and Mallory's like, oh, at the beginning. But I'm like, this movie is more than just the beginning. Like,
yeah.
The beginning is kind of negligible, really, like the cold open.
Yeah, I think the crash sequence is pretty good, actually. I mean, for the budget they have, like the way it's shot is really interesting.
It's got some Evil Dead vibes, like the shot of the ship crashing. A lot of like over cranking the camera, rushing over the mountains into the water and stuff. It is very well done for what they're doing. The ship's design is pretty cool, like for it to look almost like a jet, like a very pointed in. Mm-hmm. Thought that was super interesting. I will say it was a breath of fresh air to not have to sit through a bunch of bumpers and opening titles. Like this movie it's got the Fox intro.
It just goes.
And it just starts oh, that was so nice. But I did have a note. It is going to be sad to never really see that Fox intro ever again.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. Like it's like slipping into a warm bath anytime I see that 20th Century Fox intro.
I was going to say I get a little deeper into the couch when I see that logo.
Yeah, me too.
It's like New Line Cinema, Canon. I'm like, ooh, let's get into this.
Oh my god, the Canon logo. Forget it. It's the old New Line logo. Like or no, was it Warner Brothers that had like the red?
Oh my god, the old Warner Brothers one is so fucking good.
When they brought that back at the beginning of Joker, it was genuinely like I was like, okay, I'll see what this movie has for me.
You had my attention, but now you got my curiosity, or whatever the reverse of that. I guess
the reverse of that. Yeah,
man, I gotta say, let's talk about Charlton Heston because you've already talked about him a little bit.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed that I never really noticed before: this dude does a lot of lower jaw acting.
Oh yeah,
like you can see his bottom teeth even when his mouth is closed. Like
yeah, he always looks like he's got some tobacco in there,
like an extreme underbite. Like he's got. Oh man, I noticed that's his like tick. Like that's how he separates himself. Like Clint Eastwood does the really squinty eyes. Charlton Heston does the really stern bottom jaw. But like I don't know, I noticed that like goddamn, I see this dude's bottom teeth in every fucking shot.
Right. He does. So it's interesting because we were talking a little bit about like his line deliveries and his like trying to figure out if he's good. And I think the tip off is the fact that like during the middle section of the movie when he can't speak, I think he's very good.
Yes.
Like I think he's so expressive, does some really interesting stuff without actually speaking. And I think that means that he's invested in this.
No, I tell you the part that made me go, oh, this is like a good performance is whenever he can't speak and he's trying to like speak using sign language and stuff like that. I think it's Cornelius says something like, well, we think that apes evolved from a lesser primitive primate from man, and Charlton Heston does this little like
Like he's trying to say, actually.
Yeah.
I have that note here. Yeah, that's exactly it. He goes, we all know that ape evolved from man.
Yeah. And then, like, it's almost like he's like, no, you've got that completely backwards. And he does, all he does is a little
stupid
twitch.
asshole.
Yeah, he just does like a little twitch. And I'm like, oh, that's good.
Right.
But no, I do think he's got good dialogue. That's the thing that's weird. Like, during the courtroom scene and during the scene where he's with, who is it? Dr. Zaius, when he's in his office. Yeah. Like, when they're having their actual intellectual back and forth, it is good. But there's something stilted about the performance, and maybe it is like just the direction and the production value.
I also think there's a lot of ADR with the apes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's no way in hell any of Lucius's dialogue was recorded live.
No, it's like
right. I will say
way.
some actors are way better working through the makeup than others are.
Oh
I think
man, like Kim Hunter is.
Cornelius and Zira rule.
Yes,
Zira especially. She Kim Hunter. Yeah, she's
so expressive.
She does all these little twitches and like her eyes bug out occasionally. Like she's
the only one capable of smiling through the makeup and everything.
She's wonderful.
Fantastic.
Like it's truly a great performance.
Like, and she does so much with her eyes. Like, especially when like he first speaks, and you can see like all the other apes are like shocked, but she in particular,
she's pleased.
Yeah, like she gets a little grin, and then when like they have their kiss scene at the end, which we'll talk about, because holy shit.
Oh my god, her delivery of "you're just so damned ugly" is so charming.
It still hits, dude. Like,
she's great.
No, I think she's probably the best part of this movie. Like,
yeah, I agree.
And I do think Maurice Evans is really good as Zaius, but she outshines him, I think.
Yes. Well, his line deliveries are like masterful, but I think sometimes he's having a little more trouble working through the makeup than others.
And there's something a little weird about the makeup. Like, I know it's clearly a man and women under a bunch of makeup and fur, but there is some kind of like uncanny valley of like, they're just not quite hitting. I like the mouth movements, and then like the fact that they're all a little too fluid in their bodily movements too. It still feels like they're able to full sprint and all this makeup, and like, I don't know, maybe that's supposed to be there because it's like, well, these are not your typical apes, these are evolved apes, right? But yeah, there's something, especially the mouse. It is hard to get any kind of expression out of them, so it is a little weird at times.
If you watch those sequels, you're gonna pine for the days of the first movie's makeup effects. Which still, like, if we think about the fact that when this movie came out, like, it's still incredible.
Yeah,
like it's a crazy achievement. Like you said earlier, it won an honorary Academy Award, right?
Yeah, for the makeup.
And then there wasn't really even a makeup effects Oscar until American Werewolf in London?
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Crazy.
See past episode, American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
Speaking of Americans, this movie is so, like, the allegory is so paper thin, but I also feel like it's trying to teach you a lesson, but the wrong lesson.
Really?
Because,
okay.
Well, I had so many little notes of this, but the first thing I noticed was like, it's such an American trait that we as a nation and as a planet would be doing our very first deep space exploration, and yet we still supply the astronauts with fucking cigars.
Oh yeah, my first note is smoking on a spaceship.
Right, that was one of my first notes. I was like, I feel like you shouldn't be allowed to smoke on a spaceship,
right?
And he's got a cigar in his mouth through most of the movie.
It's so funny, and he's like, smoking a cigar and waxing poetic.
There's that ape that's seen smoking too. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
And I'm also like, you know, when they find the first sign of life they find on the planet, the little flower.
Yeah.
The first thing they do is let's scoop it out right out of the fucking dirt.
Yeah.
It's like, let's kill it immediately.
Yeah. Where there's one, there's dozens of them.
Yeah. And also the one big note that I'm like, oh, this is a movie trying to tell me that colonization is a good thing is when they first find the field full of people.
Yeah.
You know, Taylor Dodge.
Yeah, he says we'll be in charge of this place in no time.
Yes. He says they see all these other people, and one of the lines that made me laugh was like, they look more or less human. And I'm like, dude, they look exactly like humans.
They're people.
What are you talking?
They're just not wearing astronaut suits.
Exactly. Yeah, this dude only thinks that you're human if you're in an astronaut suit. But no, like, they see that, and they're all like, I think one of them even makes a mention of like, well, at least they're not eating us. And they're like, okay, well, that's like a savage's kind of comment, right? Like, and then, yeah, Charlton Heston like puffs a cigar, and he's like, well, look at them and look how stupid they are. We'll be in charge of within 6 months.
Yeah.
And then everybody stops and looks at him.
I think we're meant to, like, this is like more of him not realizing that he's part of the ugliness of humanity. Like,
yes. It's an unironic, like, no, we're in charge. We're the white men. Like, we've come to save you kind of feeling. And I'm like, that's not the lesson you should be teaching.
Oh, I think that's intentional. I think that it is. I think it's literally that he thinks they're going to take over, but he's like completely out of his depth. Like it's. I think we're meant to dislike Taylor from the word jump.
What I'm saying is, yes, I think that's the character.
Ah, okay.
But I think the screenwriting and the direction is like, you know, it's the allegory when we get later on of like, oh, you know, we'll deny everything in the face of science just for the sake of not progressing, which of course is like you had, you know, the red scare and all that stuff, like the blacklist and all in the 50s and such. Yeah. But I feel like the way they're taking it is no, we'll still persevere through all of that. Like, because this is the 60s, this is like the rise of like hippies and like Woodstock, Vietnam, you know, had just started.
Right.
We're a year away from actually going to space.
Yeah.
So
and
like
Lucius
I feel
is
like
100% a hippie. Like he's meant to represent hippies.
Oh, I love Charlton Heston's line is like, you got good instincts, don't trust anyone over 30.
I love that. Yeah.
But no, like this is like right before we actually do go to space, like go to the moon. And I feel like that was still kind of the attitude of like, whatever we find,
it's ours.
We're going to come in guns a-blazing.
Yeah, we're going to put a flag on it. We're going to own the moon.
Yes, exactly. I mean, and that's exactly what we did. We got to the moon and we put a flag on it.
I know.
Speaking of which, we talked about it earlier, but I pulled this scene because this is like one of those, there's a few moments like this in the movie where like something happens and I'm just like, why did they do that?
It's such a weird, like it feels like something out of an experimental film. Like this shot is so strange.
It feels like an Adult Swim clip to me. So this is right after the astronauts land in the water and they get out. And what is his character's name? It's Landon. He's making what you think is a grave, and I think it's more like, oh, we claim this planet in the name of blah, 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 blah.
I think you're probably right.
But I think it works both ways. Yeah. But this, Charlton Heston does a laugh when he sees this.
That echoes through the canyons.
It's such a bizarre fucking, like, the way it's shot and everything. But just look at this. The little zoom in's nice, but then this. What the fuck is that? I feel like this has got to be a GIF. This weird zoom in on Charlton Heston laughing. It's so bizarre.
Which, by the way, I just remembered. Like this comes. They wake up on the ship and they've got full beards.
Yes. Charlton Heston can grow a shitty beard too, by the way.
I was about to ask, I think Charlton Heston's the only one who has a real beard, because Landon's looks fake as hell. Landon's looks like...
I thought it was the opposite. I thought Charlton Heston had on a fake beard and the other two had real beards. But either way, the beard that his character has is such a shitty beard.
Oh, it looks like Dave Franco's fake beard in The Disaster Artist.
Oh my god, yes. It's because he doesn't have... And it's weird to say it, but he doesn't have like the soul patch portion.
Oh, sure.
To connect it. And like his mustache is super thin too. So it looks like they just shaved his pubes and just glued them to his face.
It's a metaphor for the soullessness of man.
Dude, I kind of want to make a GIF out of this. Fuck.
It's really good. I want that to just be the show's new artwork.
Just this picture here.
Yeah, and then so they journey through the desert. It takes like 15 minutes of them just like walking and time lapses, and then some rocks kind of
One of my notes was just like, people complain about Lord of the Rings being a walking movie. What about this one? This one is a lot of walking in this movie.
I do like the shots of the people way in the background that's really cleverly done. And then they all decide to skinny dip.
Like, how cool would that have been?
What's that?
Like, what is this, like 5? No, this is like 9 years before Star Wars.
Yeah.
And this is where Lucas got the idea of that. Because it seemed like a very similar shooting location.
I'm sure. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that's like an homage, for sure.
An homage? It probably is.
Oh, yeah. When they find the people, he immediately goes, I think they're mute. And I was like, you've seen them for 4 seconds.
Yes. But I still really, really love the line of they look more or less human. I'm like, dude, yes, they that's because they look exactly like if you saw like a creature that was like was bipedal, had fingers that had like, let's say 7 on each hand, and like had blue skin,
eating an apple.
Yeah, and I'm like, that I could understand. Yeah, they kind of look like humans. These look exactly like you.
They're people. They're
definitely people. Man, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
How many horses do you think were killed making this movie?
Oh shit.
Because the answer is not none.
Is that true?
No, I'm putting my foot down that I don't know it for a fact, but I do know that
there's
it's
a bunch
true.
of horses that fall over and it doesn't look great.
No, especially like almost like little ravines.
Yeah.
Like that the humans like have to like get down in. They're maybe like 3 or 4 feet deep. Dude, if a horse catches their leg in there, it's fucking done. It's over.
Right.
It's like a gopher hole almost. Like,
well, it's like there's a scene in Never Say Never Again where they full on make a horse jump off a cliff.
Yeah.
And like, have you seen that?
Yes.
It's batshit.
I feel like that happened on this movie and we just didn't see that.
I was having some Never Say Never Again flashbacks during that first chase scene for sure.
No, like, especially like how many extras are involved in that and like all those nets and stuff. Like, it looks rough. There's one extra in particular when they're showing that little cliff with the little lake at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
There's one extra they show who leaps off of the cliff and lands in the dirt flat-footed. And it's at least 2, maybe 3 stories up. And I'm like, that dude's
sprained an ankle or something. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Like,
yeah.
So I can't imagine. This is the 60s we're making movies. I mean, this is like Ben-Hur of the 60s. So
right. Yeah,
no, I guarantee you it's a non-zero answer.
Man.
We talked about the acting a little bit, and this is one thing I noticed here too is after he gets shot in the neck, which is very convenient to get your vocal cord shot out and still be okay.
Yeah. He just gets grazed, I think, but then he like Yeah, it's very odd. There's no wound later.
What's the time frame of this movie? Because they're like, he has to take time to heal.
Yeah.
So it's weeks, right?
Yeah, at one point, one of them goes like, his throat's almost healed.
Because it feels like it's days. But yeah, but it feels like the movie's telling me it's like 3 days.
Right.
But I feel like it's got to be weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, the thing about the acting that I noticed was like, a big part of acting back in the day, back in like the 40s, 50s, 60s, was just fainting.
Oh, sure. He's great at it.
Yeah, like when he first hears the apes talk and he just faints. And I'm like, that's how we ended scenes a lot back then. Like that was dramatic acting.
He's like April O'Neil seeing the Ninja Turtles for the first time.
Yes, when he hears them speak. That's a great analogy. Oh, yeah, no. For every good thing this movie does too, it also does an equally stupid thing.
Sure.
Like, I think the paper airplane bit is genius.
Yes. Yeah.
Like when he's trying to prove that he's intelligent, that he came here, that flight is possible, he can't speak, and so that how does he get his point across? That's brilliant.
It's really good. Yeah.
Right before that, we get him trying to imitate Dr. Zero to get her attention, and that one Abe says, "Oh, humans see, human do." I'm like, dude,
that's my next note. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they could not resist the urge. I mean, I feel like the Tim Burton one does this worse.
Yes.
But like,
there's a couple of those where it's like, Yeah, it's like, oh, so they've developed these phrases on their own too. Like,
they have the same
idioms,
the same cultural like historical through line.
Yeah.
Of just you
can
so
lead a human to
bizarre.
water, but you can't make him drink.
Yeah. Oh, it's such bad fucking lines. There's another one too. I'm trying to remember.
But I love that, like, so many of the apes. It's so funny because I kept thinking about, like, what would this scene be like if they were just people? And there's, like, I don't know, I can't really figure out how to describe this feeling of, like, they have just regular human conversations. Like, there's a scene, like, when Lucius comes in, he's like, we got to take him to the zoo. And the security guard's like, at this hour. Like, I just imagined, like just any other movie would have this exact exchange, except these guys are in ape costumes. Like, I don't know, it's when they're not saying like giant statements.
Yeah, that's why like the acting I think is kind of poor in a lot of places because it does feel like that feels like they're on a stage in front of an audience. Like that scene in particular, like the way that guy was like, on whose authority, and he kind of like leans in, and I'm like, dude, you're
isn't
playing
Neil
it up
Simon's
to no
Planet
one.
of the Apes.
Yes, you're playing it up to no one. Like no one is there.
all of Lucius's lines are like that. It was like, they caught me off guard.
Yeah, he's he's almost like a greaser. Like, it's so bizarre because half this movie
Danny.
works. I expected him to be like, "Hey, Daddy, we're gonna get you out of here." No,
we do have this movie to thank for Bright Eyes.
Yeah, that is a good. I'm sure that's in the book too, but that is great.
Yeah.
Why does he come up with the name Nova?
I was wondering that too. I wasn't sure
because they explained that in the remake.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember why, or maybe not the remake. I think they do that in the Rise of the Planet of the Apes. No,
right.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes when they meet Nova. It's like from a Chevy Nova, if I remember.
Oh,
like he's got like the car emblem. Yeah, so that makes sense. But I don't know. I think, if I remember right, I think they refer to the Nova of Tim Burton's movie as Bright Eyes.
Yes, I think that's true. I think,
so.
I think you're right. Yeah.
There's a lot of lines in this movie too that I think are just so fucking amazingly hilarious, but not intentionally so, and they mostly all come from Cornelius.
Oh, really?
Like, one of my favorite lines is he goes, "No creature could survive the Forbidden Zone. I know, I've been there."
Oh,
like, wait, what?
Right. Yeah.
Oh man! And then when they're on their way there and they're separated by that ravine, and they're just shouting, and Charlton Heston's like, "What do they call it? The Forbidden Zone?" And he's like,
"Nobody knows." Yeah.
Oh, and when like Dr. Zero is trying to convince him that they got to help him escape, and he's like, "I'm up for a raise soon."
Right. I love their little. The first time we see them together, they do their little. Like their little quick kisses was so like the only because you can't make out with those masks. Not that would be in the movie. I'm not saying I wanted to see
that.
I wanted to see the apes make out. You're right.
When he kisses Charlton Heston at the end. I mean, there is a little bit of like that had been the way they blocked it. Like you're seeing the back of Charlton Heston's head, and I think that's intentional to cover up. Like, what would his lips even be connecting to?
Right. Sweet ape lips.
Oh. I gotta tell you, I still get chills on the "take your stinking paws off me" line.
It's great. It happens at exactly 1 hour in.
Oh, does it? That makes sense.
Yeah,
because like
it's like an hour, like 3 or something like that.
Well, it's interesting juxtaposed against the line that he first hears the ape say, which is "smile" because they're taking a picture.
Oh my gosh!
And that's when he faints, and like that's his first introduction with like these people that are like rounding them up like, you know, like they're savage, and then like to juxtapose that with him coming off with this aggression of like, you know, you can't tame me, and I think even one of the people says that like, oh, a man can't be tamed, you know what I mean?
And he has this it also almost gives like a textual reason for Charlton Heston's like gruff voice routine, because like he's come, you know, his throat's finally healed and he's just busts out with "get your stinking paws off me."
Yes. Well, even, and to go back to that lower jaw thing, like that whole shot is all teeth.
Oh,
like he's talking through his teeth.
that whole chase scene is great because there's like everyone's like he keeps getting within like 3 feet of people and they jump back.
Yeah.
And it was like me going shop like grocery shopping during COVID, where I just felt like I was constantly trying to like keep a cart between me and everyone else.
Well, this is the thing about this movie is like it's half good, half terrible because like you imagine switching that out and it's like a bunch of people. And then one ape being loose that can talk and everything. And it would be scary. You wouldn't want to be like, would jump back from that. But then it's also equally dumb because then they do the stupid thing of like, they all happen to have fucking vegetables and shit on them. Just throwing tomatoes and cabbages at them. I'm like, why are you all carrying around?
Why did you wait for him?
Yes. Why are you? And not only that, like you happen to have those things on you.
Right.
Which means you were either taking them maybe to cook, maybe to sell or something. And you're like, let me throw them at this man that is clearly being chased by the authorities anyway. Right. Like he's circled. He can't go nowhere.
Yeah.
It was so bizarre. I don't know why. I feel like that was almost
I think it's meant to like heighten, but it still just becomes like, it gets goofy, even though it's meant to be like a heightening of this already intense
I think
scene.
It's supposed to kind of be like an homage to like the old days of like Shakespeare and stuff, of like that idea of throwing vegetables and stuff at something you disagree with. Like I think that was a joke.
Oh, really? But interesting.
I don't feel like it's played as a joke.
No. Yeah, there's weird things like I think this script is exceptionally good. I think sometimes the direction doesn't let the script do what it was intended to do. Yeah,
sometimes they get in and they give into their indulgence of let's make this this would be fun if we did this, right? Like having that restraint really shows up.
Oh, what if all of a sudden the 3 judges do the see no evil, speak no evil thing?
Stupid. I got to tell you though, during that chase scene, a good reveal is that Dodge being stuffed.
Oh, he's been stuffed. Yeah.
But I gotta say, really not comfortable with the one black guy on this planet getting hunted down, thrown in a net, shot.
I thought the same thing.
Well, because he's in that like it's almost like what is it called? What is the word for that? It's a museum, but like
it's like a natural history museum.
Yeah, but there's a word for what that specific exhibit would be called, and I can't remember. Like where they're showing them like. In different poses and stuff. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, like humans in their natural habitats. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just super not comfortable seeing that.
No, not at all.
And that's what I'm saying about like this movie is I feel like it's trying to kind of give a cautionary tale of like colonization and stuff like that, but I don't feel like it believes that it's wrong. I feel like it's almost like hey, wouldn't it be weird if white people were the ones being hunted down?
I think it's more like it is trying to make a statement, but it's also so like this goes back to like the clashing tones. I think it's trying to make a statement, but it's also interested in being an adventure movie, and I think those elements are kind of fighting each other at all points.
Oh, see, like, I take it further. I think it's kind of turning it on its head of like I said, what if instead of us going to Africa and rounding up these people and bringing them back and enslaving them, just as like, this is the director and the writer speaking, what if it's a funny joke, we switch it around and now the white dude's being hunted? Like, I feel like that, I genuinely believe that's what they thought.
Interesting. Like, I didn't get that from it at all.
Well, I picked that up from Charlton Heston. Like, his performance and some of the lines he says.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they're trying to make a joke, but in that joke there is truth, and they're not acknowledging that truth. That's the way I took it on this rewatch. Of like, to them, this is like an absurd story. Like, this would never happen. People wouldn't, But I'm like, this did happen. Like, this is, and you're making a metaphor that you don't realize you're making. That's how I took it.
You're wondering what would it be like if someone suddenly took over and you weren't in charge anymore, and that did happen.
It's like being completely oblivious. It's the whoosh moment, like going over their heads of like, you guys don't realize this is, for all intents and purposes, you were telling a story of something that's kind of already happened.
Which is something that the Matt Reeves trilogy does really well. I think they extrapolate a lot of those, like, those metaphors and those, like, very, very...
But the difference in those Matt Reeves movies is it's telling it from a more empathetic point of view, from the Apes' point of view.
Right.
In this
from
movie,
the people who are in the revolution.
Yes,
Yeah.
and in this movie, it's like, no. The white guys are the heroes.
You don't understand. I'm supposed to be in charge here. I'm a blonde white man.
That's basically, if he had a line that says that, like, you don't understand, it's not him trying to explain that he's just as intelligent in them and that he deserves to be equal. It almost seems like throughout the movie, he's trying to say, no. This is a mistake. I'm supposed to be the one in charge. Like, and that, I kind of take that from that "take your stinking paws off me" line. Like, he's almost like, no, you guys don't get it. I'm the ruler.
Yeah, I came here to take over. It is interesting because I think it's a good thing that the movie positions Taylor as an asshole from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it also, I don't know, like you're saying, like, if you look at the movie from the point of view of a colonizer getting his comeuppance without realizing it,
he doesn't learn anything, I don't think, in this movie.
Right, exactly.
Like, even by the time he gets to the end reveal and he realizes he's on Earth, I still don't feel like he's learned a lesson.
No, he's just mad about it.
Yeah, and
he carries that into the next movie when his solution is to destroy the world.
I gotta watch this sequel now. But, like, our main character doesn't learn a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
He has no arc, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even when he is down, like when he's been captured, stripped of his wardrobe, forced to stand naked in front of a courtroom,
right?
He still is like, no, I'm going to come out on top no matter what. I'm like, you're arguing with a species, a culture that doesn't care. Like, there's irrefutable proof that he's got, like, intelligence. Like, even when, I can't remember which doctor it is, but they're like, well, what's the second faith or whatever, the second rule?
Oh, yeah, the second law. Yeah. Well, and that to me, I love, you're giving me, like, a whole new read of this movie because I really took a lot of it at face value. It makes me want to rewatch it, and I think that's, like, the mark of a good movie.
Yes.
But that scene reminded me of, you remember when this politician brought a fucking snowball into a climate hearing and he's like, global warming doesn't exist, look at this snowball.
Yep.
That's the same kind of shit.
That's exactly what it feels. It feels like you're arguing with a brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
And not only a brick wall that punches back. Like,
and the brick wall is the Zaius literally says there's no difference between religion and science.
Yeah,
like,
and
or
he's like the head of the scientific community.
Yeah.
So it is frustrating. Like, by that point, I do get the slightest bit of empathy for Charlton Heston's character. Like, throughout the movie, I'm like, dude, I don't care if you get captured because you're an asshole. Like,
right.
And I don't, like, as soon as he sees...
It's just when they start gaslighting him that it bums me out.
It's like, as soon as he sees Nova, he's like, well, that's my girl. Everyone else, fuck off. And it's like,
she's
dude,
the only girl, so...
She can't even speak. Like...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I feel like, yeah, like you said, like they're just gaslighting the whole time, and no matter what proof they offered, like the outcome of this trial was set. I feel like it's almost like Scarecrow in the Dark Knight of like, or the Dark Knight Rises. Like, this is not a trial, this is a sentencing. Like, that's what it. But it is also. It's funny too because like that courtroom scene is, I think, objectively the most intriguing part of the movie.
Yes. I completely agree. And there's no way that I was paying attention to it when I was a kid.
No, that's what I'm saying. When I first saw it, I did not get this whole middle section.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, one of my notes was like, this movie really has the time to come to a full stop to have this discussion. And they kind of do this in the Tim Burton one we talked about, where like, they have this dinner scene where they're talking politics and stuff. And I'm like, for that movie, it made no sense because, like,
no, because they wanted to let Giamatti riff for a little while.
Yeah, but that movie is marketed as a straight up action adventure movie.
Right.
This one, I really wish they would have gone further into this because a lot of the scenes really are just Charlton Heston in a cage getting sprayed with water. Like, that's a majority of the movie.
Right. this is the part that I was like, oh, you can see the Rod Serling here.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it would have been like if Planet of the Apes had been an episode of The Twilight Zone.
I mean, they should have got fucking Sidney Lumet in there to fucking direct that courtroom scene. Or like, for real, like, get like some 12 Angry Men kind of fucking discussions going on. But the fact that you have a character...
Jack Lemmon as Taylor.
Yeah, like, the fact that you have a character that's like... the fact that I'm able to speak to you intelligently and use words, like the level of vocabulary that I have, proves without a doubt that I'm at least more intelligent than the other humans you've been interacting with. And I get that's not the point of the scene, but it's like I need something to latch onto because I don't like this character at all anyway. He's way too much of a representation of all that's wrong with 50s and 60s all the way up to now, really, like male personalities. And then you put him against an even more aggressive, it's a dick swinging contest between two dicks. Like, it's not interesting to watch, but it's trying so hard to be. Like, it's so close to being.
It is written really well, though.
Yes.
It's just shot very flat.
It's shot flat. There's no arc.
Yeah.
Like, I wish at one point, Charlton Heston's character during that scene, even if he was faking it, would just be like, look, I get it. I'm the inferior species here. This is not my world. This is not my culture.
Right.
Clearly, you guys are still in your, what is the equivalent of the 1800s almost?
Right.
And to have a moment of levity of like, oh, I'm not in charge here. I'm beyond my depth. My two friends are dead. Or, I wrote down this too. We have a third lobotomy. Second of this season, third of the series. Like, I am way out of my depth here. Like, I need to play this smart, and he never does. He only plays it. Like, the only reason he escapes is because of Lucius.
Yeah.
Or
both sides of Lucius? That. Yeah, Lucius. Yeah. Both sides of that trial came in already knowing how they were going to approach it, and neither of them change over the course of it.
Yeah, if they would have had a moment
it's still great, but it is, it feels very static.
Yeah, like when they come in, just when they are announcing who's a part of the trial, you're like, oh, this is not going to go well.
Right.
Like, I mean, I just wish during one moment there was a bit of tension during that scene, and there's not.
I do love the class war stuff with the orangutans and the other apes like
and stuff. Yeah, they play that up more in the remake, but
I love he does have a great line where he says where they say all apes are created equal, and he goes, "It seems some are more equal than others."
Good line.
I really like that line.
Good line. Yeah. This movie's got a lot of good moments like that, and in fact, when he does go to Dr. Zaius's office. Like, after that...
I love that scene.
It's a great scene. That's what the trial should... Like, the trial should have been...
More electric.
2 minutes. Instead, it's like a 10 to 15-minute scene. It should have been like, no, we're already going to judge you. We're going to rule you. Then you get into his office and you have that full-on discussion. Which would have been better is if, instead of him being the one that's chasing them at the end, it was one of the other jurors, I guess. Or not jurors, I guess judges. Because, like, when he gets in that courtroom, they're already like, no, you're guilty. We're just going to sentence you. And then he goes into Dr. Zaius's office. It would have been great if Dr. Zaius was like, look, I know the truth. I'm keeping this deep, dark secret. You're essentially a prophet, like the prophecy coming true. Right. And it scares the shit out of me. And I can't expose that because I'll be charged with heresy.
But it's hard. It's hard
a bit
to separate
of that. But he still stands firm of like, nope, I'm just going to cover this all up. And I'm like, there's no one in this movie other than maybe Dr. Zira and maybe Cornelius. And I'm like, these are the people that I side with. And even them, I don't know. This movie's so close. I feel like 86% is a good score. Yeah. Like, it's so close to actually saying something.
It has a few clunky bits, but I think overall it is good. It's just, it's undeniably a classic, but there's some stuff that doesn't quite land.
And I'm going to say something that's maybe a little controversial. I do think this movie is ripe for a remake, like a full-on, just this movie, not the Tim Burton style, not the sequels, not the Matt Reeves one, just this movie. And especially now, And, you know, when we're dealing with a lot of stuff like recognizing colonization and stuff, like we just made Juneteenth a federal holiday this year.
Yeah.
Like this would be prime for a remake to discuss some of that stuff and give me a character that I can that actually has an arc. You can start him off as being an asshole, totally fine.
Yeah.
And then have a moment where he realizes that he is in the wrong and what that does. And it's, you can keep even these gaslighting characters because that makes sense. But like
it does, it has moments where it starts to dive into colonization and the othering of, you know, people you don't agree with. And like there's
class warfare, there's racism, there's so much going on here that it pokes at but never like fully explores. And it's so frustrating on this rewatch to see that. I'm like, dude, this is a great movie. This could be a damn near perfect movie if they just went that extra 10, 15%. And it's so frustrating. But
it's also interesting because after that is The Big Escape. And I remembered that being more of this movie.
Yeah.
Like I remember the stuff in the cave being a lot more than like 5 minutes of the movie.
Oh, I don't even really truly remember the cave sequence that much, honestly. On this rewatch, it was interesting. I'm like, because by the time we get to that point, and we get the doll,
the doll is fucking haunting.
Yes, it is. But I'm also like, they are telegraphing the end of this movie so much harder than I really remembered. Like,
because Zaius literally says, like, your people destroyed everything.
Yeah. And, like, by the time you see that doll and, like, you see that Charlton Heston's character finds, like, a pair of glasses and stuff, I'm like, dude, I always thought that twist kind of came out of nowhere. No, it's pretty well telegraphed.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's genius or what, because like I can't obviously put myself in the mindset of seeing this movie for the first time in the 60s and being blown away by it.
I think it's still a good twist because this just suggests that this is a world where humans wipe themselves out or were overthrown, but it doesn't necessarily say this is Earth, you know, until that last moment.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. But it's like the first hint that he's on Earth should be that the apes speak English. Like, dead on right there. Like, that should be like, oh, shit, something...
And that's something in the novel where he actually starts to learn their language.
Okay.
So it, like, stays very ambiguous until the ending.
Yeah, that's probably because this is a movie and you can't have subtitles for the whole fucking thing.
Right.
But yeah, no, I was just like, dude, this gives it away so fucking easily.
Yeah. You know, I will say around this time when Taylor points the gun at Dr. Zaius, Zira finally says what we think about Taylor, because it sounds like she says, "Taylor, you cunt."
I did notice that.
It was just like, yeah, he kind of is.
Can I tell you, though, this movie's what? PG? It's still PG, right? Yeah, because there's no 13 so. Then. This movie could have used a good fuck you. Like, I really do think...
Right.
Like,
get your fucking paws off.
Well, no, I was thinking during the courtroom scene would have been great. Because, like, when the guy's like, oh, if you're so smart, tell us what the second faith is or whatever it is. He goes, look, I admit I don't understand your culture. And he goes, oh, you don't understand our culture because you can't think. And I'm like, well, clearly he can think.
Fuck you.
Well, like, and then he asks another question. I think that would have been a good time to do almost like the Walter White, like the first time when he says it to Gretchen and he leans in.
Oh,
it's
my
just
God.
A very angry fuck you.
Fuck you.
Like a fuck with like 7 Fs. Like, that would have been fucking great.
So good.
That would have been great to have. And do that in my... you know what? I'm kind of talking myself into writing a fucking remake of this movie.
Do it. Where everyone just says fuck you constantly.
Yeah, it's we're going to be Wolf of Wall Street for the amount of fucks.
We're doing an NC-17 remake of Planet of the Apes.
Oh, yeah. Instead of kissing Dr. Zero at the end, he goes full on cunnilingus on her. Hey, man, if Batman can't get away with it,
right?
We
Heroes don't do that.
That was
according to Warner
I know
Brothers.
By the time this episode comes out, that's like a month old news. But what the fuck?
Yeah, we just talked about that on the AIPT Comics podcast. We were talking about like we've got a new segment called "What Don't Heroes Do" or something like that, and we discussed whether or not Batman eats taffy.
Well, does that mean DJ Khaled is Batman?
Yeah, I think so. Actually,
I've never seen the two in the same room at the same time. So
that's right. That's right. Oh, those horses, by the way, speaking of horses being put in peril, they did not like that explosion at the end.
Oh, God, no. No. These
that
poor
was like
horses.
Blofeld's cat, like, trying to get away.
Yeah, totally. Again, I just wrote down a bunch of lines that made me laugh out loud, but like, you know, Dr. Cordates is supposed to be this great scientist, right? And I can't remember what part of the movie it is, but he says, we've never explored the Eastern Desert because we assume life just can't grow there. And I'm like, well, that's fucking stupid. Like, well, we don't think there's anything out there, so fuck it, we're not going to bother. Okay. Right. Oh, and speaking of like the racial undertones of this movie, when Dr. Zira says to Taylor, like, oh, don't worry, all apes think that men look alike. And I was like, oof.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Wild.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because there's multiple times in the movie where I'm pretty sure they just used the same like ape extra as a different character.
Yeah.
Like there's one scene when he's hiding out in the church. Like I'm positive that it's the same costume used for Zira.
It probably is. The guy that's giving the speech, like the preacher.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, the preacher looks exactly like looks like Maximus. Yeah,
I mean they could have because he's kind of out of focus in the background. They could have just ADR'd him with somebody else. So, we're getting kind of close to the end now. I'm just kind of looking through my notes.
Yeah.
The fucking boomer mindset throughout this movie is very apparent, but like obviously Lucius is supposed to be like this kind of rebellious teenager.
Yeah.
And after Taylor shaves his beard and he's like, only kids your age wear beards. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ with this anti-hippie shit. Like, dude, you went through the whole movie with a beard.
That's exactly what that was. Yeah.
Let's see. Was there anything else before we get to the end? Oh, did you know what the word geld meant? Because I didn't realize that until this movie and I had to look it up. Because,
wait, what now? Which word?
Well, it's two of the apes are coming to get Bright Eyes, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna take him to so and so. They're gonna geld him."
No,
GELD. It just means castrate.
Oh,
and I had no idea that's what it meant until I looked it up. I guess
that makes sense because Dr. Zayas has that thing where it's like first step is emasculation.
Yeah, lots again. Something about this season. Lots of threats of dicks getting cut off. I don't get it.
Yeah, cut off, hit with a carpet beater. Yeah, smacked with ropes.
Let me see. I
shoved down jazz musicians' throats.
I did think the little ape kid was pretty great because we only get like one kid really, and the one that sees him.
Yeah, and he goes, "It's a man."
Mm-hmm. It seems like he's in like an oversized T-shirt too. I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah, I guess I don't really have much. I do think that "It's a Madhouse" line is great.
It's great. Yeah.
The whole Nova subplot is so unnecessary. Like we didn't. Poor fucking Linda Harrison. I mean, she's good for what little she is in this movie, but she should have had more to do. I don't know. I wish she would have helped them escape instead of just getting like if Lucius didn't come to get them out,
right?
He would just be dead, right, or lobotomized.
Right. Mm-hmm.
See, I don't like that. I want her to have something more to do.
I do love the moment when he says, "I taught you to smile."
See, I found that gross.
I don't know. I think his delivery. I
it's
think
charming,
it has
but
potential
it's also,
to be gross.
Yeah, it's charming, but because right before that, he's just like, just the lines he says, like, "Oh, I used to fuck a lot, but I don't love any of them."
It's the worst. It's the absolute worst. But to me, there's just something so sad about it because she's just mimicking him. And
she's mimicking him, and he's the worst example of our kind.
Right, but somehow he finds comfort in that, and it's just this really dark moment to me.
See, that could be a good... For me, it's a scene that doesn't really work. I get what you're saying. Okay. I'm glad that it speaks to you that way. I think if he didn't have that...
I don't find it to be a positive thing,
No, that's
sure.
what I'm saying. It could be a great, like, double of like, oh, she's smiling because she's happy, or... she's only smiling because she's mimicking him and she has no idea what this emotion is. Like that would be, but they don't play it like that. They play it as if, oh, she's smiling just because she's happy with him.
Right.
You know, like I said, if he didn't just have that whole dialogue about, oh, I used to fuck a lot and I never loved any of them. I'm Tarzan and you're Jane.
There were women.
Yeah. And then all the cigar smoking. Like, it's just so grimy and he even says a line. He all but says, "You're stupid, but you're the only girl in town, so I guess we gotta fuck."
Yeah.
He says, what does he say? He's like, "You're not very intelligent." Like, I think he's like, Dr. Zero is a lot more intelligent, but you're the only true girl in town. And I'm like,
something like that.
Because there's no reason he needs to take her ever. He just wants to because she's attractive.
Yep.
Like he's
going to get lonely.
She has nothing to do with anything in this movie because she doesn't do anything. Like Dr. Zero makes a comment of like, or somebody says she wants them to mate, but that's it. Like she does nothing else in this movie. She
has more to do in the sequel. It's not great, but she does
speak?
I don't remember actually. I don't think so, but possibly.
I think it would have been great if she were to like mimic him throughout the movie, not speaking and not necessarily picking up on his emotions, but just like the physicality of him, like whenever he grabs somebody through the bars and stuff, if she like, oh, I can do that too, or like, maybe he tries to pick the lock to get out of his jail cell.
She definitely is like Nova is a missed opportunity for being such a passive character.
So let down, like, and he's grabbing her by the wrists all the time, and I'm like, God damn,
he's grabbing everybody.
Yeah, but
he kisses Zira in front of her fiance,
dude,
just to do it.
Let's get to the kiss because what the fuck?
Yeah, I'd like to kiss you goodbye.
It hit me on so many different levels this time because he's got Nova there. He doesn't kiss her. He grabs her by the wrist and lets go, and
they
then
snuggle at one point.
Yeah, he lets go of her wrist though. At least he asks, or he doesn't even ask. He says, "I would like to kiss you." Why? Yeah. Why does he want to kiss her?
To prove he can. He wants to cuck Cornelius.
I wrote that down. I was like, dude, Cornelius getting cucked in this movie because like,
and he does it in front of her nephew also.
Yeah, because Cornelius makes like a kind of reaction, but he doesn't do anything. Like he's just like, okay.
Dr. Zaius seems, for someone who is like humans are a blight against the world, he doesn't have any reaction.
No reaction. And like Dr. Zira, I could get being like, maybe she doesn't love this character like romantically, but he is like think about this from a Switch perspective.
Scientific perspective.
Yeah, like if this is an ape that's talking, shooting a gun, walking. On two legs throughout the movie and like is able to ride a horse, and then at the end of it comes to you and is like, yeah, but I mean, I would too, just to say I did it, but it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, she's a freak.
That's if they didn't blow up the cave right after this on the horse ride back, Cornelius would be like, so we got to talk about some shit,
right? If they weren't trying to figure out how to get out of being put on trial.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, so did you enjoy that?
Like, I feel like that would be a quiet car ride home. Like,
for sure. Sure. This ending is bleaker than I remember because not only do you have the great reveal of the world was destroyed, but like, and that they've been on Earth the whole time, but you also get like, Zira and Cornelius are going to be put on trial for helping Taylor and
they blow up the cave that has any evidence that could be used against them. So like,
it's a bummer.
It is. I didn't remember that part at all. I didn't remember the cave stuff at all in this rewatch. I was like, well, shit. And like, none of the characters have any agency either by that point.
Right.
Like, it is really fucking dark. Like,
that is a good point. Like, it does feel like there's a ton of this movie that just feels like, oh, we're spending a couple of days at Ape City. Like there's not a whole lot of people making decisions.
Well, it feels like no one's allowed to make a decision until after Taylor has already intervened. Like,
right. Yeah.
He grabs, he drags Nova around by the wrist. She doesn't have any agency at all. She can't, even when she sees her home, he's like, oh, no, you can't go back there. I'm like, why? Why can't she? Yeah, she might get captured. Why do you own her now? Yeah, why do you were stealing a woman. That is basically what you're doing.
They weren't going to put her down either. Like, they were not going to kill her.
I feel like they're doing kind of like a caveman thing of like a caveman throwing his bride-to-be over his shoulder and carrying her around.
Right. It was me, Tarzan, you, Nova.
Yes. But like, because like, what if Dr. Zira's like, no, I won't kiss you. My husband's right here.
Yeah.
What is I don't think.
What's next?
I don't think Taylor is like, okay. I think he's like, well, I've earned Taylor, it, damn it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny.
It's such a weird moment.
They do that in the remake too. Like, He kisses the Nova of that movie and then immediately turns around and kisses the Zero of that movie.
Right.
Which I feel like in that movie it's almost played as a joke, but
yeah, for sure.
Man. All right, so let's get to this ending. So
yeah.
Taylor mounts a horse and throws Nova up there with him. And they ride off. Dr. Zaius is like, well, we're going to blow up the cave because we're going to keep this lie going that,
history's written by the victors.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And like, you guys are going to come back with us. You're going to be put on trial for heresy. And he even makes a comment. He's like, if it was just heresy, it'd only be like 2 or 3 years, but because you put my life in danger, it's going to be a lot worse. I'm like, I get that, Taylor's already gone by that point, but I'm like, what's to stop them just being like, fuck this and just dipping? I mean, I guess they can get shot, I guess, but, so they ride off. I got a question, too. I never picked up on this. As he's riding through the Forbidden Zone along the coastline, he does see some kind of, like, it's shot from, like, an over-the-shoulder perspective of something else other than the Statue of Liberty. Did you know what that was?
No, I thought it was just, like, him starting to see rubble or something, like ruins, but I think it's kind of put out of focus.
They do the angle kind of twice. They're like, it's from high up over the shoulder of something, and it looks like it's got like nets and stuff all over it. And Taylor sees it, but he doesn't make any kind of comment about it. And he keeps going, and then they do the same shot, but it's the crown of the Statue of Liberty.
Right.
So I never got what that was.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, that was the torch. It's the torch, like you're seeing like the girders inside of the torch. Yeah.
Oh, so he sees the torch and then he comes around the bend and he sees the full thing.
Right.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
I never got that because I was like, what the fuck is that? Is that like another monument? Is that the Eiffel Tower and he just didn't get it? He's like, I've never been to fucking Paris, so I don't know what that is. I would not be surprised if that was the case.
The Paris got sent over to the U.S.
Yeah. But no, he comes around the bend. He sees something. We don't see what it is, but he obviously has a visceral reaction. He has the great line of, I'm back. I'm home. I've been home all along. God damn you. You blew it all up, you maniacs. And I love that Nova is the last one we really see because she like is confused by his reaction and she looks up.
Doesn't quite understand.
Yeah. And then from her point of view, we see the Statue of Liberty in the background. So clearly he's been on Earth the whole time. Mm-hmm. He's in the future where I guess mankind destroyed themselves. We had Judgment Day, and Apes rose up from that. So it is, like I said, it's great because there's no score. All you hear is the waves crashing on the beach.
Yeah.
And we just fade to black, and over the credits we have the waves. Yeah. It is very ominous. It's ominous as shit.
It's an incredible shot, too. Like that composite shot of the Statue of Liberty. It still looks great.
Yeah, the miniature of the Statue of Liberty. It looks amazing. No, it hits like one of those endings of like, if I didn't know this twist was coming, it would hit me like the ending of Buried or something, where it's like,
oh, sure.
It's impactful as shit. And if they didn't telegraph it as much as they did, but
yeah. But it's like, it is one of those things where it's like, of course, this movie became like a touchstone of science fiction filmmaking. Like
it's apparent, like this twist ending. I don't know if this movie would have been as impactful without this ending. Like if it would have had as much resonance as it does. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those, it's like the Rosebud was the sled kind of ending. Like it puts the entire movie into a different perspective. And it is also like, of course he's on Earth. Like it makes so much sense that he would be on Earth. It makes sense from the movie standpoint, from a scientific standpoint. I still don't get it. Because here's my question, right? So he goes into space in like the 70s. I think they showed the clock that like
1976.
Yeah, it's like 1976 for them. Back on Earth, it's already like the year 2300 or something like that.
Yeah.
But he's essentially, by the time they crash, he's like 2000-ish.
Yeah, they land in like the 3900s or something like that.
Yeah, and I didn't see what the clock on the on their version of time is, but essentially, so logistically, I'm thinking from Earth's point of view, they send out some astronauts, right? And like you said, for them, it's been about a week, and they come crashing back down to Earth, and it's already like 2,000 years in the future,
right?
From what I can gather, just by the look of things, it doesn't seem like apes have been real, like the part of time that we find ourselves in, it does not seem like apes have been ruling for that long.
Right, which is another issue with the sequels where it looks like the apes take over in like 1985.
Okay, because it seems to me like the apes have been in charge for maybe like a century.
Yeah,
because they're still they're still
in their
like
industrial revolution.
Exactly,
right now.
like because like the humans are still in rags and they're still like rounding them up in nets and stuff, and they're still kind of living in like these very minuscule small cities with like this, you know. So I'm feeling like
they're living in Ewok cities.
Yeah, I feel like I wonder how long they're trying to explain that like mankind has been like destroyed itself, because I feel like what exactly happened? I guess my question is, what exactly happens to the ship?
Right.
They leave Earth's atmosphere, and then what happens? How do they scientifically? How is it possible that they land back on Earth?
I don't know. I don't exactly understand it either. It's also, I think it's left purposefully vague, which is why it's also a problem that.
Do you think it's vague because they're like, we want to keep the mystery, or like we have no way to justify?
I think there's a little bit of both, but I also think that's why it's a problem that the sequels try to explain it, and then they end up like fucking their own timeline.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, the ship leaves Earth.
Yeah.
And then it comes right back.
Right.
And somehow no navigation system on their ship is able to tell them that.
Right.
So I don't know. I did think it's kind of fucked up that the only female astronaut just dies before the mission even starts.
Sure.
That was weird. It also would have made more things more interesting if like there was a female
love
astronaut.
Triangle.
Yeah, well, not even a love triangle. Well, you could have done that, but you also could have been like, you know, because his other astronaut buddies get taken out pretty much immediately.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think they could have just done something more interesting with that, because like other than Dr. Zero, there's only one other female and she doesn't even get to speak.
Right.
So it's really weird. It's a very dick swinging movie. Like it is a very overly toxic masculine movie. That being said, though, like I said, I do think there's a lot of there. It's just not mined as well as I would like to have been. Oh,
for sure. Yeah, I agree. I think some of that is the limitations of budget and the era, but I also think some of it is just the limitations of how people were approaching these topics back then. Like some of the metaphors you're getting hit over the head with, and some of them you're just like, I wish you would have one more line about this.
Yeah. Well, like I said, when you put it in contrast to another movie that came out the same year with 2001, it's clear that
which also had incredible ape effects.
Yes. Some of the best ape effects, practical ape effects. But like that movie is clearly modern filmmaking like taking off.
Right.
And this movie's still stuck in like the stage production.
Right.
You know, no part of 2001 to me feels like a set. It all feels practical and real. So maybe that comes down to the cinematography, maybe it comes down to the acting, the production design. It's probably all of that. But like it is weird because to me, 2001 is like the pinnacle of filmmaking. Like it is, if I had to pick one movie to be like what, you know, to send into space to the aliens, be like, this is cinema, it would be 2001. Because like, even though it's like 60 years old almost now, it still has this kind of an ambiguity, but also like tells a cohesive story. Whereas when you put that next to this movie looks like dog shit, like next to it. And
I mean, most movies do.
I just feel like because it's kind of tackling similar subjects that like, this is clearly like a crossroad. Like this was like a touchstone, a milestone in filmmaking. Like we clearly started to shift things up. I feel like there's a couple movies that do that. Like Citizen Kane really defines like, you know, going from one type of storytelling to another. 2001 did that. And then, you know, there's been a couple of them. Like, I feel like Jurassic Park might even be one, but
Jurassic Park, I mean,
The
Jurassic
Matrix,
Park and
for sure.
Jaws invented the modern blockbuster.
Yeah, Jaws was definitely like. There's these movies that are like they're checkpoints. I feel like in the history of filmmaking. I feel like 2001 is that, and it's interesting that both these movies get regarded as classics, and they come out the same year. They're both about somewhat similar themes. So that is interesting that this movie does not manage to get lost. Like, everybody's heard of Planet of the Apes. And
of course,
spawned a franchise that's still technically kind of going on today. I mean, we haven't really got anything new in the past couple of years, but yeah. Is there anything else we want to talk about with Planet of the Apes?
No, I think we covered it really well.
I do think we did it really well. All right, well, let's get into one of my favorite segments of the show, Prop Cop.
Yeah.
So that's of course where we look at all the props, all the costume, set dressing, anything in there in that movie, and we say, hey, that's one thing I would love to own for myself, for my collection from these movies. So Nathan, Planet of the Apes, is there a prop from the movie that you think would be great to own?
I'd love to own the 29th scroll. The one that Cornelius pulls out of Zaius' pocket at the end and reads.
That's a good one.
I think it would be dope on my office wall. That
would be pretty cool. I've been doing this repeatedly. I have 3. So I'm only going to take one, obviously the number 1 spot, but from descending order, I think the doll would be kind of cool.
Yes.
The little plastic
I almost
mummy
put
doll.
the doll, but I was like, that thing gives me nightmares already.
It is pretty creepy. But the second thing I think is kind of an overlooked and a pretty cool prop, I think, is the backpack that the astronauts have.
Oh yeah, those are cool.
It's so weird looking, but it looks kind of like that retro futuristic, which is one of my favorite aesthetics, like how he thought things were going to look in the future.
Right.
But ultimately, I had to go with the mannequin stuffing of Dodge.
Holy shit.
Just so I could put the heart that I got from Angel Heart and the brain that I got from Pi in it, because I'm going to end up making a Frankenstein.
That's right. You have to create a Frankenstein by the end of the season. That's amazing.
Oh, one other note I wanted to talk about that we talked about last week with Casino Royale, but this is also a very sweaty movie. Like,
so much sweat. Yeah, we've got a sweaty season.
3 in a row now. Yeah, sweaty, lobotomized, dicks being cut off season that we've got going here.
we really need to do an episode in like Alaska or something where no one's sweating. We gotta do
like The Thing or something.
Right. Even that one gets sweaty.
Yeah. No, I feel like we gotta have a t-shirt to commemorate the season. It's gotta be like a dude that's been lobotomized and somehow he's pouring sweat.
Yeah.
And we've got to somehow tastefully suggest that he has been castrated.
We'll figure it out. Let's workshop
we'll
this.
Figure it out. I'm excited to see if any one of these things come up the rest of this season, because I haven't thought about it. I don't want to until we get there, but like,
right.
Does it hit one of these 3 check marks for the season? So this is another bit part. This is another segment that I introduced last week with Casino Royale that I want to keep going here.
Yeah.
I don't really have a fancy name for it, obviously, but it's just called Bit Part. This is an idea I have constantly while watching movies of, I want to be in this movie.
Yeah.
Right? I want to have a moment in this movie, but I don't want to be a star. I just want to be like an extra, like a featured extra or anything like that, but just something small in the movie just so I can say, hey, that's me.
Yeah.
Which extra would you like to play in this movie? Which bit part? Do you have, if you don't have one, I have one.
I kind of would like to be the security guard.
Okay. Like the one that gets bonked in the head?
Yeah, the one who's just like, you're taking him to the zoo at this hour.
That's a good one. I actually had a guard too, but I want to be the one that gets the little zoom in when he's like cracking the whip at Taylor and he's on the horse.
Great shot. Yeah.
That's a great shot. And I think that'd be kind of cool to like have that blank expression and I'm cracking a whip at Charlton Heston.
Right.
Also, because it could be kind of therapeutic for me.
Do you think Spielberg took inspiration from that sequence when he was making The Lost World? Like bit with the velociraptors in the tall grass.
Oh yeah, like they do the tall grass thing here. Yeah, when they're
it's so cool.
Yeah, when they're first chasing him. Yeah. No, I have no doubt Steven Spielberg loves this movie. Like, genuinely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I only got 2 little bits of trivia that I thought were interesting. One of them, it's not even interesting. It's just fucking, I had to mention it because it made me want to throw up.
Oh no.
So all of the ape actors and the extras, they had to keep their makeup and mask on during breaks because it took way too long to put them in there, so they can't take it off. So because they couldn't take that stuff off and it was like extremely difficult to like eat and talk and drink with that stuff, they had to have their meals liquefied and drunk through straws. No. Now,
that's awful.
Think about that and where this movie takes place. It's pretty much in a desert. Yeah. Oh, so you're in pounds of makeup and costumes.
Yeah.
You're sweaty as shit. You can't even eat on lunch. You have to just fucking drink your meal. Ugh.
I would have thrown up if this was another movie with people drinking milk.
Oh, thank God. I mean,
yeah.
There's no other animals in this movie besides horses, right?
Right.
Oh, that's gonna fuck up my silver lining.
Oh, so the sequel one of the sequels reveals that there was like a pandemic that killed all dogs and cats.
Ooh.
So that's why apes became like domesticated.
That's bizarre.
It's a weird plot
Out of
point,
all the other animals that we could have domesticated, like
right.
We do that now. We have like fish and we have people do ferrets.
Oh my God, Planet of the Fish.
Oh, Planet of the Fish. I would watch that.
Disgusting.
My only other note here is that the original novel. Have you read the novel?
Years ago. I think I was in high school when I read it.
Okay. Well, in the novel, and this kind of goes along with the Tim Burton movie, is that they do land on another planet.
Right.
And then they escape with Nova and they return to Earth and they find out that Earth's undergone the same kind of evolution of apes taking place.
Right.
So it's basically, like, as crazy as that remake of Tim Burton's movie is
closer to the book.
Yes. I thought that was insane because I might be a contrarian, but I do like both endings. Like,
Interesting.
I don't think the Tim Burton one is done well. Like, Ape Lincoln is fucking horrific. But Lincoln. I do like the idea of the character landing back on Earth and, I just escaped this Planet of the Apes. Oh shit, I'm now back.
And thinking like, oh, the villain beat me here.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't like that it's basically parallel development. Like, they still have a Washington Monument and a reflecting pool and all that shit. And they're driving police cars and like, I don't like that. But I do like the idea of him coming back only to find out, oh shit, I'm fucked up again. Yeah.
Different planet.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe that's what I'm seriously considering this idea of remaking this movie, like writing a script.
Do it.
Like it's all right there. It's so
let's kickstart it.
it's amazing that this hasn't been done yet. Like,
right.
I don't know. Because this movie I don't feel like it's too precious to get a remake. I mean, obviously they did it with Tim Burton, but I do feel like there's something there. So Charlton Heston's dead, right? He died recently, didn't he?
A few years ago, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Not that I would have to ask him for his permission, but just curious. Okay. Well, this is going to be tough, but let's get into silver linings.
Okay.
So, what do you got?
That creepy doll was destroyed. It was blown to hell.
I love that both you and Mally have just kind of given up on the whole silver linings portion.
No, that was literally like, it's so hard to think about what could be good after this moment.
It is very hard.
I guess the only other thing I'd say, if I'm taking a more serious stance, is that, like, fucking Charlton Heston, the Taylor is kind of free now in a way. Like, now that he has his answers, he can stop trying to figure out how to ever get back home, if that was even what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And he can just kind of make his own destiny now.
Well, that kind of goes in line to what my silver lining is, is that him and Nova kind of have everything they need to live like a decent life. Like, decent in terms of the situation. Like, he's got a gun for protection and even for hunting, which...
He's got some food.
Well, he's got a head start. Food. He's got a horse, which, if worst case scenario, you can eat that horse.
Yeah.
The thing I asked about are there other animals was I was like, he's right at the ocean. He could fish.
Oh yeah.
He could do the castaway thing.
There you go.
But I was like, and he has someone there that he has to look out for, which is Nova. So like, I feel like that it's unfortunate because I don't think his character would ever do this, but I feel like that is someone that he'd be like, okay, I have this person I have to take care of. She's essentially a child, so I have to like teach her like how to speak and how to write and how to have her own emotions. But I know he's just like, nope, this is my fuck doll, basically.
Yeah, he's a big old grosso, and it's a good thing that he's stuck in a desert where no one's ever going to try to bother him again until the sequel. And
I doubt the apes are going to be returning to try and recapture them, since like
you'd think.
I'm sticking to just this movie, right? Because I'm thinking like, all right, let's say they take Cornelius and Lucius and Dr. Zero back to the ape city, which is that the only city?
Unclear.
Okay. Because also Earth seems very small in this world.
Right. Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, they're in a land where the apes are like religiously prohibited from going there.
Yeah. Also, it's less convenient than a lot of other sci-fi movies about just landing on a planet and happen to be right in the vicinity of where you need to be. Because they do have to make at least a little bit of a hike. But
right.
I wrote down, I was like, even if they do decide we're going to have this expedition, we're going to go back to the Forbidden Zone, we're going to capture these two and bring them back, that would raise a lot of questions amongst the ape citizens that are there, that are still being kept in the dark about the truth. They're like, oh, it's the Forbidden Zone, then why are you guys able to go and come back? Like, it would kind of throw everything into turmoil. So I feel like Taylor and Nova do have a chance to, like, live a comfortable life.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's really my only silver lining, because it is dark. Like, I would like to think that the sequel would be after this reveal at the end, and Charlton Heston realizes he's on Earth the whole time, that he goes back to rescue Dr. Zira and Cornelius and Lucius, but I know that's not his character.
Nope. Selfish.
That would make
Selfish
for
to
a much
the end.
more interesting sequel.
Yeah.
But I know we're not going to get that, so. I feel like we at least tried here. I mean, it's hard. This one is hard.
Yeah, it is, for sure.
But yeah, that's Planet of the Apes. So, Nathan, let's say that people saw this movie and they're like, look, even your silver linings guys didn't really help me out. Like, I'm still bummed out about the end of not only mankind, but Earth, and the apes have taken over.
Right.
Yeah. So what's a double feature? What's a pick-me-up alternative that people can watch after they watch Planet of the Apes to maybe improve their moods?
Well, I have a feeling we might have picked the same movie. I don't know why.
I got my fingers crossed.
Okay. If you want to keep the monkey action going, Kong Skull Island.
Oh, okay. That is a movie that I had a lot of fun with.
Yeah.
But I haven't revisited.
It's super fun. I think it's easily the best of the MonsterVerse movies.
Ooh, I would go toe-to-toe with you against the 2014 Godzilla. I love that movie.
I need to rewatch that one then.
I mean, my problem with that movie is the people that don't like it. Because
I think that there's a lot of people who have complaints about that movie that don't exactly hold water. But
exactly, like when people are like, well, it's too much of the people and not as much of Godzilla. I'm like, you don't want a movie that's 90 minutes of just Godzilla. You would be bored to tears.
Right. No, I like
would be
that
impossible.
I like that it's more of a disaster action adventure movie. I think Skull Island is so much dumb, exciting fun that's fair. It's the one I've rewatched. So I
like the Godzilla one just so much because of like the set pieces are great because you're not just stuck in Vietnam the whole time. Whenever Godzilla is in that like Chinatown district, he's like surrounded by clouds. It's so fucking
it's shot incredibly
badass as shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Godzilla in that movie is like, I made a note of this, but like one thing I really like about that Godzilla movie is when the people on the streets and stuff see the Mutos.
Yeah.
Yeah, people on the streets, when they see the Mutos, they kind of like are all shrieking and running in terror and everything. When they see Godzilla, they come to a full stop and they're in dead silence.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm like, that is so fucking cool that like they're afraid of the Mutos because they're a monster, and Godzilla, who's equally a monster, they should be terrified of, but they're just like in awe of him, and I'm like, that is fucking cool.
It's just I used to love Godzilla, but ever since I'm a Pensacola resident, and ever since he destroyed our giant robotics lab and made us retreat to our Chinatown district, I've been that definitely exists. I've been very bitter.
Oh man, well the pick-me-up movie I chose is let's say you're not a fan of this planet.
Okay.
And you want to go to a different planet and you want to have some fun? Why not put on Planet Terror?
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Keep it going.
That's another one I haven't revisited in a minute.
I haven't in a while either. I've rewatched Death Proof 2 to 3 times more than I've rewatched Planet Terror, but Planet Terror is just so wildly batshit stupid fun that I feel like you're going to forget all about Charlton Heston. And that one gives a woman some agency because she at least has a fucking gun attached to her leg.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, last but not least, do you recommend this movie to people if they've never seen it?
Oh, absolutely. I think so. I think even if you know the ending that's coming, like it's it's a touchstone in filmmaking, like, or at least in science fiction storytelling. In a lot of ways, we wouldn't have gotten stuff like Star Wars without Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes was the first movie to have really have tie-in merchandise with action figures and stuff. Like the Planet of the Apes kicked off that trend that would continue when Star Wars made 1,000 action figures, 10 years later or 8 years later, whatever. And
like franchise of like science fiction properties. Like this is one of the first. Yeah. I would say if you've never seen it and you've got the time, sure.
Okay.
I would say it's not a movie you have to run out and see right away.
Yeah.
And if you're not feeling it after like the first 25, 30 minutes,
switch over to the new series.
Yeah. Well, because like this movie's pacing gets real slow in the middle of it. And especially when you get to the cave too. Like that scene takes a long time. Like if you're looking for a real adventure with this kind of stuff, this is not your movie. This is way more of a let's sit around and talk about it.
Right. That makes sense.
Which is what we've done here for almost 2 hours now.
Yeah, there was a lot more to unpack here than I thought we were going to have, for sure.
I agree, because I thought I was just going to be like, this part's great, this part's not.
Right.
But yeah, putting this movie to a different perspective really opened up the floodgates of discussion. So
yeah, it actually made me want to rewatch it, like, with the things that we've talked about in mind.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if you watch it through that lens of they're making a metaphor... Well, the metaphor they think they're making is they're actually making the opposite.
Right.
It is wild to watch. And let's say you, the listener, have a different opinion on this movie and you have a different takeaway from it.
Yeah.
Or maybe you agree with us and you want to talk about it with us. You can do that by hopping over onto our social medias. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. Just search for the Silver Linings playlist. You can let us know, give us some feedback, either on this episode, on past episode, or in general, how we're doing. Let's say you've got a movie that you think we should do on the show. You can drop us a message on one of those social media platforms, or you can email us at thesilverliningsplaylist@gmail.com. We will be happy to throw it into our rotation if you would like to be a guest on the show, because we all love having guests.
Yeah.
Especially people that we've never had on before. We would love to have people on. So reach out to one of us, or reach out to the podcasting platforms I just mentioned. Wherever you can find us, by all means, do that. If you haven't already, we ask that you please subscribe. The typical podcasting trifecta: subscribe, rate, and like, all that good stuff. Leave us a rating in iTunes Store if you haven't already. We would really appreciate that. And I always like to emphasize subscribing, because we may drop episodes here and there that you may not even be aware of unless you're subscribed. Bonus episodes we do occasionally. But we also drop episodes every Monday, and you'll be the first person to know about it because it'll pop up in your podcast feed. So without any further ado, Mally, who cannot be here this week.
Yeah.
And we miss him dearly. Get better. Get well soon.
Get your power back soon.
Yeah. Join us here in the 21st century. Mally's pick is for next week, and he gave me a clue that he wanted us to give out on the air for what his episode's going to be. His clue is bananas, but his clue for next week's episode is it's another sci-fi movie, I'll tell you that. But he says next week's movie would be much better if it starred Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence. Which I feel like is a very deep, it's
a deep cut for sure.
You gotta really think about that. But it's gonna be interesting to get back into the sci-fi world next week. Nathan, is there anything else we want to talk about before we go this week? I feel like we did Planet of the Apes justice.
Yeah, I think we've talked more about Planet of the Apes in one sitting than people have in a long time. And I'm glad now that we've done both the original and the remake, and that this, we lined up the anniversaries. This was great. And yeah, for sure.
I always like doing the older movie too, because I always feel like we do too many modern movies, so I like throwing in these older ones. But I'm excited for next week. It's a movie I've only seen once,
and I have not seen.
Oh
yeah,
man, it's kind of got a similar ending now that I think about it.
All right.
Not to spoil it for you, but they are similar. So I'm glad to hear what you have to say about it. Well, I'm excited to hear. So thank you for listening, listener. Please tune in next week where we're talking more sci-fi. We're talking Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence, apparently. And until then, as always, it's a madhouse!
Excelsior!
Excelsior!
Excelsior! Excelsior! Look it up.
Hello, YouTube. If you've made it this far, thanks. Could you do us one more favor? Could you hit those like and subscribe buttons? Maybe leave us a comment on what you think of the show. We'd really appreciate it. Join us again next week for an all-new episode. Bye.